We live in an age when freedom is proclaimed as the highest value. It seems to us to be a self-evident good, a gift that we should have by birthright. We demand freedom of speech to express our views, freedom of choice to determine our path in life, freedom of expression to be ourselves. But what if I told you that it is this seemingly noble thirst for freedom that may be the cause of our deepest suffering? What if we, deep down, are actually afraid of that freedom? Maybe what we think of as our aspiration is really just an echo of the fear of the responsibility that freedom inevitably entails. Erich Fromm is an outstanding figure in the field of psychology, philosophy, and sociology of the 20th century. Born in Germany, his life was marred by the tragic events of 2 world wars and the horrors of the Holocaust. The upheavals he experienced left an indelible mark on his worldview, shaping his views on human nature and the structure of society. Fromm did not just observe what was happening, he asked the deepest questions. Why do people, with seemingly unlimited freedom of choice, so often inclined to submission, to blind conformism, to self-destructive patterns of behavior? What lies at the heart of this paradox, this seeming irrationality of human nature? These questions became central to his research and shaped his contribution to the understanding of man and the world. In his famous and still relevant work Escape from Freedom, Erich Fromm undertook an in-depth study of the paradoxical, dual nature of human freedom. He showed that freedom is not just a desirable reward that gives us joy and endless opportunities for choice, for the realization of our own desires and aspirations. Much deeper, Fromm argued that freedom is, first of all, a heavy burden, a huge responsibility that a person has to carry on his shoulders. It is responsibility for one's decisions, for one's path in life, for one's existence in the world. And it is this responsibility, this burden of self-determination, that requires enormous courage. The courage to be one's true self, not hiding behind masks and stereotypes, not being afraid to face one's own self and accept it as it is. The origins of our fear of freedom are rooted deep in the history of mankind, in the long and complex process of civilization evolution. Over the centuries, as society developed, man step by step freed himself from the strong but sometimes constraining traditional ties that defined his life and his place in the world. He left the embrace of the clan, the narrow confines of the community, stopped unconditionally obeying the religious dogmas that had previously guided his thoughts and actions. This liberation, this freedom, of course, brought new opportunities to men, widened the horizons of his choices, opened before him unprecedented prospects. But at the same time, with each lost connection, with each step towards independence, man felt more and more lonely. More and more he felt himself cut off from the world, from his roots, from something greater than himself. And it was this loneliness, this sense of existential detachment, that became the breeding ground for the fear of freedom, for the desire to regain the lost protection, even at the cost of giving up one's freedom. One of the most common ways of escaping from freedom is conformism. In this case, a person consciously or unconsciously gives up his individuality, his unique features and characteristics, and seeks to dissolve into the faceless crowd, to become indistinguishable from others. He accepts as his own the values, beliefs, and norms of behavior prevailing in society, refusing critical thinking and independent judgments. This allows him to avoid responsibility for his decisions, because now he acts like everyone else, following the generally accepted rules and not risking to face condemnation or misunderstanding. In addition, conformism helps to dull the painful feeling of loneliness, giving the illusion of belonging to a group, a sense of unity with others, even at the cost of losing one's own identity. Another, no less common, way of escape is authoritarianism. A person experiencing fear of freedom seeks to obey a strong leader, an authority figure who will take responsibility for his life and show him the right path. He gives up his will, his ability to make decisions, and trustingly follows the instructions of his leader, thus getting rid of the need to navigate independently in a complex and unpredictable world. In this case, Freedom, with its burden of responsibility and uncertainty, is voluntarily replaced by a sense of security and belonging to a group united by a common ideology and submission to authority. The third, and perhaps the most tragic way of escaping from freedom, is destructiveness. A person who feels alien and lost in this world, who cannot find a place for himself, who cannot cope with the burden of freedom and responsibility, comes to the desperate decision to try to destroy this world. And first of all, he turns his destructive energy on himself, destroying his health, his talents, his opportunities, his life. But destructiveness can also be directed at other people, manifesting itself in aggression, violence, anger, hatred. By destroying the world around him, a person as if tries to get rid of the feeling of his own powerlessness and loneliness, to dull the pain of realizing his insignificance and aimlessness of existence. Destructiveness becomes a kind of self-expression, a way to declare one's existence, even at the cost of destroying everything around. Finally, another, and perhaps the most common way of escaping from freedom, is automatism. This is a state when a person lives on autopilot, performing habitual actions without thinking about their meaning and consequences. He immerses himself in the routine of everyday affairs, in work, in worries about material well-being, in endless consumption of goods and services, in entertainment and pleasures that should fill the emptiness inside. He tries to avoid any situation that might make him think about deeper, existential questions, about the meaning of life, about his role in this world, about his mortality. He is afraid to face his inner world, those feelings and experiences that he carefully suppresses in order not to feel the pain of realizing his freedom and responsibility. Automatism becomes a kind of anesthesia that allows one to silence the inner voice, to avoid discomfort and go through life without experiencing real feelings and emotions. But is there a way out of this seemingly closed and vicious circle of fear? Is it possible to escape from the captivity of conformism, authoritarianism, destructiveness, and automatism? Yes, there is a way out, and it is not as difficult as it seems at first glance. Erich Fromm offers us a path to true freedom, a path that begins with the most important thing, awareness. Realizing our fear of freedom, realizing the mechanisms we use to escape from it, realizing that we ourselves, and not someone else, are responsible for our lives, for our decisions and actions. The key step on this path is to recognize your individuality, to accept yourself as you are, with all your strengths and weaknesses, with all your advantages and disadvantages. One should not be afraid to be oneself, to be unique, to be different from others, even if it contradicts the opinion of others, even if it causes misunderstanding or judgment. It is important to remember that a person's true value lies not in conforming to other people's expectations, but in being true to oneself. In order to gain freedom, it is necessary to constantly develop your critical thinking, not to blindly follow the majority, but to ask questions, to search for answers independently, to doubt, to analyze, to verify information. It is important to learn to distinguish true values from false ones, one's own desires from imposed ones, conscious decisions from impulsive ones. And, of course, it is necessary to learn to love yourself, to love other people, to love the world around you. To love not consumeristly, not selfishly, but unselfishly, sincerely, wholeheartedly. To learn to create, to build, to benefit other people. To strive for self-actualization, to reveal one's potential, to develop one's talents, to achieve one's goals. Erich Fromm deeply believed that true freedom is unthinkable without love. Not the superficial, selfish love that modern culture often imposes on us, but the deep, sincere and selfless love that is an act of creation, an act of overcoming one's selfishness and merging with another person, an act of accepting and respecting their individuality. Love, according to Fromm, allows us to feel part of something bigger than ourselves, to transcend our narrow ego and find a connection with the world, with other people, with life itself. Creation is another powerful tool on the road to freedom. Creativity. self-expression, creating something new, be it a painting, a piece of music, a scientific discovery, or simply a useful endeavor, are ways to overcome our limitations, express our individuality, contribute to the world, and ultimately find meaning in life. Creativity enables us to feel that we are creators of our own reality, not just passive observers. Fear of freedom is not a rare pathology, but a common problem that every person faces to varying degrees throughout his or her life. In moments of crisis, uncertainty, in the face of difficult decisions, we are all tempted to run away from freedom, to hide behind the masks of conformity, authoritarianism, destructiveness, or automatism. But it is important to remember that we always have a choice. We can give in to fear and give up our individuality, or we can embrace freedom, fight for it, develop it, and use it for good, for ourselves, our loved ones, and society as a whole. The choice is always yours. Remember that freedom is not the absence of any restrictions or rules. It is not anarchy and permissiveness. True freedom is, first of all, the ability to consciously choose between different options, guided by your values and principles, and the willingness to take full responsibility for your choice, for its consequences, and for your life. It requires courage, awareness, and constant work on oneself, but the result is worth it. After all, only by finding true freedom can we become truly happy, realized, and fulfilled human beings. Thanks for watching.